meeting is being recorded.
One me.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Trust everyone had a great bathroom break. It is now 6:26, and I bring us back to order. And I think, were we still on Fiber Fund? Anybody have any more questions on Fiber Fund? Okay. All right, moving to 300 debt service.
Sarah's favorite fund. Okay, so for 300 debt service, for fiscal year 22-23 actuals, total revenue collected was $3,781,919. And then for total expenditures, we had $4,744,421 with revenues under expenditures by $962,502. Our beginning fund balance was $1,627,053 and ending fund balance at $664,551. For fiscal year 23-24, total revenues that we budgeted $3,834,955 and total expenditures at $3,901,310 with revenues under expenditures by $66,355. Beginning fund balance at $664,551, ending fund balance at $598,196. For fiscal year 23-24 projections, total revenues at $3,898,645. Total expenditures at $3,901,310 with revenues under expenditures by $2,665. Ending fund balance at $661,886. For fiscal year 24-25, total revenues at $4,298,764. Total expenditures at $4,223,411. With revenues over expenditures by $75,353. Ending fund balance at $737,236. And if you notice, it's been under, so revenues have been under expenditures, and that's on purpose. That's to, because this fund can only be utilized to pay bonds. So that's on purpose, so we can pay more out of, so this fund had, I don't remember what was the amount, but the way it was designed to go under, so whenever we got the debt payments over to the debt service, because we can only use this fund for debt service.
So Leslie, can you explain to me why it shows the principal on some of these going up?
That's just the debt schedule, how it fluctuates, but that's like, I go off of the debt schedule on this.
Who provides the debt?
Our financial advisor.
The 2016 series and the 2021 series bonds, did we pay those off?
No, they're getting paid out of water sewer now.
Okay.
So are they paid from the INS rate, or are they still paid out of the M&O rate? If they're moved over and being paid out of water sewer fund, are they paid with the interest and sinking portion of the tax, or are they paid with the maintenance and operation portion?
Sarah, can you please turn on your microphone? Thank you.
Sorry.
You're talking about the water sewer ones?
Yes, these bonds.
No, the
that
water
are-
sewer pays for its out of operating, out
Okay.
of their, so water sewer debt is now getting paid out of water sewer fund. So it's not, it doesn't commingle with M&O or INS.
Okay, so our debt is actually higher than what's shown.
I'm not understanding that.
Because those bonds are not being shown on this particular sheet.
Yes,
There
yes,
actually is
they're-
more debt.
Yes, but they're getting paid out of water sewer.
Okay.
So yes.
Thank you.
I think to her point, there's the two funds that I thought were paid off, they're just not showing on this sheet.
No,
That doesn't mean
they're-
they went away.
No, it doesn't mean they went away. They're getting paid out of water sewer fund.
Right, okay.
So if we look at the water sewer fund, we can see the difference.
Yes.
Okay.
If you go to the water sewer fund,
And not to cut you off, Wesley, is that because is following the GF and the WS, is that what those initials to tell us?
yes, that's for me, that's
Okay.
for my reference to, so general fund means it gets paid out of general fund. Water sewer means that it just gets paid out of water sewer, and then general fund, water sewer, general fund / water sewer means that it gets paid out of both funds.
So if we wanna know, we can use this kind of as a.
Yes, as a guide.
Perfect, thank you.
I understand the amounts fluctuating based off of the schedule that you get from Mark. And I understand the need for putting additional monies that we have in revenue toward capital improvement projects. But I still think that we need to be applying more money to get the debt paid off quicker.
I
That's
can
just
talk
my
to,
opinion.
yeah, I can talk to Mark, our financial advisor, and let him know.
I mean, the quicker we pay it off, the less interest we're paying, right?
Yes, and it also can hurt our ratings. That's why we have to double check with him. That's why it's set the way it is.
Any more questions on this, or? Sarah, do you have any more questions? Are you sure? Okay, 600, DEDC.
Okay, so for, fiscal year 22-23, total revenue at 1,205,821. Our expenditures at 305,040, with revenues over expenses by 900,781. Our beginning fund balance for this fund is 2,454,619. Our ending fund balance is 3,355,400. Our cash beginning balance is 1,548,633. Our cash ending is 1,624,653. For 23-24 budget, total revenues 1,114,544. Our total expenditures, 769,468, with revenues over expenditures by 345,076. Ending our fund balance at 3,700,476, and ending our cash balance at 1,969,729. For fiscal year 23-24 projections, total revenues, we're anticipating 1,238,025. We're anticipating expenditures at 754,509, with revenues over expenses by 482,516, ending our fund balance at 3,838,916, and ending our cash balance in 2,108,169. For fiscal year 24-25, we are, total revenues at 1,261,485, and our expenditures at 750,485, with revenues over expenses by 511,000. Our ending fund balance at 4,349,916, and then ending our cash balance at 2,619,169.
maybe we talked about this, at the last meeting, I apologize, I don't remember. 6411 contracted services, what was that again?
That is the 175 that is given to for the contract for the general fund, and then 9,000, and then what was the other one?
$7,500 for the, RFP for depository services.
What I don't see on your expenses is, where did it come out that we purchased the property there on by the,
It's been capitalized, the property,
okay, so it's not on here,
no,
okay.
but it's not with you, the balance sheet will show it under land.
See, I see capital in, but I don't see,
Yes, because we capitalized it. So I can show you the balance sheet, and it's on the balance sheet where we purchased the land.
okay.
And so we're projecting that in, 6357 in the fiscal year 24-25, that we're gonna spend about, 461,000 in grants and incentives. So it's kind of the same, it didn't
Yes,
go
yes,
up or go down?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So, just to be clear, the purchase of that land was under another line item, so it's not taken away from the
Yeah,
cash
it's
in
taken,
of
yeah,
6.1 million?
no, it's already been taken away from that, the
Okay.
cash.
Okay, so it's not 1.6 million, or that's what's left?
No, that's what's left.
Okay. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out how that number came about, if it's already out of there, but there's no listing for it.
No, yeah, it is out of there. So the 1.6, it already has that deducted, I can't remember how much it was, like 893,000 something?
830.
830, oh, 830.
Okay,
I get what he's saying, it's kind of odd that it's not listed there.
yeah, it's,
Under the lease to 22-23 line item of what we paid for it versus, and then, it's just odd.
because I don't know how the numbers would add up if you removed 834,000.
Is the reason why it's moved, Leslie?
Yes, the auditors removed it from there because it has to get capitalized, so it will show on the balance sheet, it's shown on the balance sheet as a land. Like, I can show you, I mean, I can give you the report, not right now because I can't print it, but I can show you where it's at.
I just don't know how the numbers add up if it's missing $800,000 from this line item. Maybe I'm crazy.
So when it's capitalized, you can't add it to this particular, as an expense?
Well, you see how, it's saying that revenues were over expenditures by 900,000, but they really weren't over by 900,000, it's less because of the 800,000, 830,000,
800.
yeah, 830.
It's included in that 900, is that what you're saying?
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not, that's why it's saying like revenues are over expenditures by 900,781, but it's not. It's, the land was 800 and,
830.
yeah, 830. So really, they just came in over by 100 and some. Their revenues over
Right, but
expenses
see,
by 100
if I didn't know that they made a land purchase, then I'll go, oh, they got $1.6 million in that fund. Not knowing that it should be,
Well, they actually do, that's cash money that they have, that's what the auditors, that's what we have left after we did the purchase.
okay. Am I just crazy?
It's hard to explain.
It's
but I
just
know
hard
what
to
you're saying.
understand, because it is also not just for yourself, but for me as well. But from what my gathering and understanding, once we purchase that land, it's taken out of it, so it's more or
It is
less
an
you put it
asset.
as an asset, thank you. Under asset.
It's not money.
Right, because it's not money anymore.
Okay. Maybe a side note.
It's not a
something
loss,
that could probably-
and remember, it's not a loss because we own it.
Right, maybe a footnote or something.
Yeah,
That could probably
okay, I'll do that.
make it make sense when we look at it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, that it's supposed to be capital land, but there's a line item that says capital land and
Yeah,
there's
but that's
nothing
an,
there, so.
it's an expense, so it's an expense, yes, it's an expense, but it's, a land does not depreciate, so,
So it's not
Right,
gonna
but in
last
two, but in,
You
but
sell it for less, it does.
in
Oh, yeah.
January of in January of twenty-three, we didn't own the land. So there was a transaction at some point during 2023 of $830,000 is my point.
yes.
And that's why it says capital land zero, but then I'm told, oh, it's taken out of the bottom, but where is it
But
taken
it,
out?
but it is taken out of the bottom.
I know, I hear what you're saying, but I'm
Okay.
saying, where is it showing in this list of expenses that
It's been
there was an
capitalized.
$800,000 expense?
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
So just put a footnote, can
Yeah.
you put a footnote with something like that, that you kind, it tells the story of where the money.
Okay,
Because I think we all come on the same page, like wondering, we get it because you've explained it. But it's not
What's being done with all this extra money?
The excess is, it's kept to the side because we can utilize that, like if we have a huge project come in, to incentivize, or say another land opportunity comes up, that could be used to,
Don't say that.
I have a land opportunity right now.
Don't do it. Don't say
The
that.
property right behind this building right here.
That's true, right? Thank you,
See, she
dear.
knows what I'm gonna say.
Yes. So, it's one of the things, Sarah, let me, sorry, I think it was Valerie, but let me share this with you. One of the things that we are doing right now is looking for other ways to help and incentivize businesses to come in. So those funds may be utilized at that time. Tara's in the process now of researching other communities to see what kind of incentives they're using. We are revamping our programs because we realize that we don't have as many business owners applying for certain grants. So now we've taken a step back and said, okay, we need to do something a little bit more attractive, something that's really gonna benefit business owners. So we've taken a step back. We're hoping we can get more and spend more of those funds, because that's all we can use for this stuff like infrastructure.
because we're so limited on what we can utilize the funds for.
That's pretty interesting, because I was at a HDAC meeting and Dickinson was seemed to be doing some really unique things.
We
So-
don't want to do
I know, but it was Dickinson. I know. So,
We don't wanna even copy
I
it
know.
or think about it.
there were several,
I'm
there
sorry.
were several cities that were doing some doing
Right.
different things to the EDC. Dickinson, Garfieldville was so happy to that list, but also Texas City.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
They have some things going on, and also League City.
Mhm.
Yeah.
League City was doing some, they have some unique programs, and I spoke with, one of the city councils there in detail, so you may wanna, see what.
Of course, I'll definitely look into it,
Reach out
yes.
to League City for sure.
That 461 you have in there, is that already accounted for? Is that what you're thinking you will spend for the year? Or is it you got somebody already in mind,
The
some
four-
of that?
The 461 is just what was allocated for those, so we put in there that we would utilize them all, that way if businesses came in for incentives and for grants, we have that money allocated for them.
Lexi, do you show what we've spent so far out of that item? Line item? 6357. Remember, some funds that may have not been, have come out yet.
We have spent, 301,907.
So a lot of the businesses, when we offer grants, we give them incentives based on different milestones in which they reach. So we may have a business about to reach a milestone, and one of the milestones could be them obtaining a certificate of occupancy or them hiring so many employees.
And we
But you
do,
don't give it to them all up front.
yeah, and then for like the smaller grants too, we do have a mandatory 60-day waiting period after we hold the public hearing to be able to release those funds, and so we do have several that are waiting for the funds to be able to be released.
Alright, Anybody has any more questions on EDC? All right, thank you. I think we can move forward to municipal court.
Okay, so for municipal court fund 107, for 2022-23, the beginning fund balance was 49,958. Revenues were 6,899, and total expenditures were 2,870. Net income of 4,029, ending fund balance at 53,988. And then for 23-24 budget, we began the fund balance at 53,988. Total revenues at 6,500, total expenditures at 6,500, and then there was no net income or loss, ending fund balance at 53,988. For 23-24 projections, beginning fund balance at 53,988, we're anticipating revenues to be at 8,020, expenditures at 6,500, net income of 1,520, and ending fund balance at 55,507. For 23-24 budget, beginning fund balance at 55,507, total revenues at 7,500. Total expenditures 6,500 with net income of 1,000 and ending fund balance at 56,507.
I have a question. At what point, and this may be more for Jennifer, at what point do we get to that we need a full-time municipal judge?
Not anytime soon. I mean,
Okay.
with the amount that we currently have, we don't need a full-time judge.
Okay. I don't know if we were getting close or if we were.
No,
Right, my ticket.
What's that?
right now,
Maybe a book.
we have arraignment court, every Wednesday morning. And then twice a month on Wednesday, we have pretrial arraignments. And then, once a month, we have jury trials, and once a month, we have bench trials.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Sounds good. I think we're ready to do 108.
Municipal court technology fund 108, for 22-23 actuals, beginning fund balance at 31,249. Total revenues at 5,937, and then total expenditures at 2,741. Net income of 3,196, and then ending fund balance at 34,445. For 23-24 budget, we begin fund balance at 34,445. Total revenues at 6,500. Total expenditures at the same, and net income of 0. Ending fund balance at 34,445. For 23-24 projections, beginning fund balance at 34,445. Total revenues at 7,500. Total expenditures at 1,365 with a net income of 6,135, ending fund balance at 40,580. For 24-25 budget, beginning fund balance at 40,580. Total revenues at 8,000, total expenditures at 5,450, and then net income of 2,550 with ending fund balance of 43,130.
I have a question.
yes.
On this one, we budgeted for 23-24 6,500 on the expenditures, but we only spent 1,365.
Yes.
Okay. But we anticipate that we're gonna spend 5,450 next year.
Possibly, it depends on, we have a couple of computers that we need to replace. So the one in the courtroom, for instance, that's been since 2017. So that one, both of them actually, but one of them more than the other, I need to replace.
All right, anybody have any other questions?
I do have one thing, and that's probably more question. When looking at these budgets, it drives me crazy, because I know in years past, not so much in the last 3 or 4, but we didn't include the way it's set up now to include raises and employees in the, line item. As I'm asking you, could you separate that as if you had your employees, how many you're supposed to have for the year, how many you want to add, and what the COLA would cost, and a different line item for me, or for us? I hope council would see the same thing. I just hate that it's added in there automatically, and we don't have a way of looking at it separated without having to sit and take a calculator and figure out.
Okay, I'll do that.
So it'd be a line item, so what you're asking for is a line item that has the current salaries, line item for how many they wanna add, and
Yes,
then a line item for the COLA.
COLA, yes.
Okay.
John, I think I have that if you wanna see it.
Yeah, for it,
You probably wrote it down?
I asked for it.
yeah, for it.
Okay. But I just think when we start going talking budget, tax rates, is I wanna know the difference between whether we give across the board, if we took some out, or gave more.
$215,000
Yeah.
is what I think it comes out to, at 3%. Am I way off?
I just want to separate it from the line.
Yeah, but it's with all the funds,
Everything that was on this list that I got, I just went and added up the differences.
yeah, it's around 200,000.
Okay. So that's a good chunk of what they wanna raise the budget by. I guess actually a quarter.
She can get it to me, I hope you know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about.
yes.
And Leslie, can I get that as well?
Isn't it a-
And that's across the board for every, person that got the COLA,
Yes.
right? Every city employee, correct? Okay.
Proposed. You have agreed to it, yeah.
Proposed, but we also gave 3% COLA increase last year too.
Understood. Yeah, understood.
All right, thank you, Ms. Leslie, for your due diligence. Is there any other questions anybody has?
I just wanna
before
thank,
we move on?
I wanna thank Leslie for doing a really good job, being transparent in your financial reporting. I know this is a task, but I think you guys done a really good job. You provided some of the things that we asked for last year, and I'm seeing the line items, just a little bit more work, but you've done a really good job here.
Thank you.
Okay, if no objections, then we'll move into, workshop B, discussion of DANET and the IT department. I guess I'll go ahead and get started. Everybody's kind of looking at me. So I guess, we want to talk about, DANET, some of the challenges that we're having, some of the challenges that you're having, James, whether it be, personnel or whether it be, experience with personnel, or whether it be hardware, or what the challenges are. We've seen quite a bit here lately. I use this as a broad term, right? Because everybody just likes to say, well, DANET was down. And I get that DANET itself was not down, but the perception is they could not either get to the internet or for whatever reason. And it's like almost saying, well, AT&T is down. So I guess what I would like to see at this point would be kind of an explanation as to what's going on, more specifically, what happened with the police department, why they were inoperable for so long, what services you know, what services were impacted, because I don't really understand what exactly is dependent on the internet for the police department, and what the mitigation plan is going forward for them.
So that's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
All at once.
Yeah.
Let me take the last side first. In regards to the PD, I think it really, as far as it being down, and I don't know if everybody understands what the issue actually, what took place. But on Thursday, a semi-truck decided to take Main Street as their bypass around the underpass on 321. During that time, of course, it's a little bit taller than the average vehicle, and it caught our fiber. And this fiber, let me make this very clear, was not DayNet. That had nothing to do with DayNet. That fiber was put in place 2016, 2015 timeframe, I think it's 2016, which is a dark fiber that only connects the city buildings together. So that had zero impact on DayNet. There wasn't a customer that was impacted. So why did that impact PD? The way that we have our topology set up, or our infrastructure set up, that communication is critical to go between the PD and City Hall. City Hall is essentially our hub. Mayor, I sent you out a very high-level diagram of the network, so hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. And so you'll see what I'm talking about. One of the services that absolutely was not impacted was 911. So there was no impact whatsoever to 911. We all know that that's a separate system. Another service that wasn't impacted was the radio system. That had no impact whatsoever of this fiber. The CAD system did not go down completely. And when I say it like that, it means within the PD itself, you can still physically access, dispatch can access and do things that they need to do within CAD. The mobile CAD was impacted. That was not something that well, it was impacted. Internet was part of that process. And we can get into a little bit later the finite details if you want as to how that happened and why that happened. Dispatch was momentarily impacted with phone systems. There's two phones that's operational within the dispatch office, and those are directly internet based. So it's a voice over IP phone system. When the internet did go down, and mind you, again, referring back to that diagram, the primary feed for internet for the PD is actually through City Hall. It is not DayNet. DayNet is our failover, which didn't quite fail over. So when they couldn't, when the phone system couldn't get to the internet at that time, the phones did go down. Now, I wasn't notified until roughly 7:30 a.m. About 33 minutes later from the impact of the truck taking down the fiber. We had two phones back in service using DayNet, just doing a quick, simple reroute in dispatch. Now, the option was available that we could have every single phone in the PD back up the exact same way, but that option wasn't chosen. So we moved on to find other things that we could do to get the system back up.
So what time did it actually get cut?
I think the report says something around 6:57.
Because we found out, I think at noon is when I got the email. That's why I was talking about.
Yeah, so you can look at the timestamps. It was certainly way sooner than noon that it was reported.
You could have got that notification later. because as staff working on it, I don't care, they're working, so they may not notify me immediately so that I can send it out to council.
No, that's fine, I was just trying to establish, because that was what time I thought it went down, was at noon when we got notified. I didn't realize it was down at 7. Okay.
Yeah, roughly 7 o'clock if you want to shave a little time off.
Okay.
Nonetheless, being that fiber is a critical component to the city and the communication between all city buildings, we were able to get a crew on site by, I'm not sure exactly what time. It was, yeah, roughly 11 o'clock, and by 5 p.m. the service was back up and running. So we're looking at about 8 to 9 hours that we were 100% down.
This truck that came through took an alternate route other than the underpass, because that's when the underpass was flooded, right?
Yes,
Would be my assumption.
that's correct.
So what would have been the truck's alternative?
Not my department, couldn't tell you.
They could have went down, I'm sorry, they could have, went down Waco, it would have been a better option versus downtown. Downtown is not a route at all.
Right, but if they were coming from that direction, they wouldn't have known.
They wouldn't know because we didn't have anyone out there directing them, that's correct.
So my point is, if this happens again in the future, that the underpass is down because of flooding, do we have this raised up now?
We can't raise it any higher than it is right now.
Can we do something different with it?
There's always something that we could do. We could try to put it under the ground, but I think it was put up there for a reason. Same thing with a lot of the DayNet. The only area in the city of Dayton that's aerial, and this is both the dark fiber plus the DayNet, is the downtown area. And I can't tell you exactly why that is as far as the DayNet side, other than the congestion under the ground of other utilities. I don't think it was worth the risk at the time, but I wasn't here for that decision.
But it doesn't mean we can't look into it and see if we can.
Correct.
I'm just looking for ways to try to prevent it from happening again in the future.
But
Yeah.
hang on a second. You bring up an interesting point, and it's somewhat off topic, but we're talking about closing Waco, but Waco is a very required egress
Yes,
point.
yes, that's a different story, but you're correct. I don't want it closed.
Okay. Okay.
Yes,
We need to have a conversation.
yes, sir, yes, we do.
We really need to have a conversation, because if you're telling me that the underpass closes and semis have to go through the basically 3 other egress points, that's all that's left, Main being one of them.
Wayford's the other, that's it.
And we got a problem, Houston.
Oh, yeah, we've been saying it.
Yeah.
Did you
Wake
wake
up
up
to our
that
world, we've been saying this for a while.
Okay,
And-
go on, James. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay, and we have no control over the Waco situation, right?
No.
It's TxDOT actually. We've been communicating there since I've been here in regards to the Waco street closure. With the underpass going in now, we don't really have a say until it's been closed, or we will not get the overpass, or we will.
And we probably need to wait for that one for another day.
Yes,
Since
okay,
we're not
that's not what
posted
it
for
is.
that one.
No, fair enough, but I just wanna make sure that's highlighted, that we got a severe problem, not a small problem, a severe problem.
Yes.
Go ahead, James, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I was actually at. To be honest with you,
Pick it up
it's easy for me
anywhere.
to squirrel away, so you gotta kind of,
How long was the police department down?
from roughly 7 till 4:30-ish.
With the
4:30 to 5.
down, but yeah.
So did you say that you had, is there redundancy built in this system?
So there is, and this is what failed. There's more to this story. So, and I think, Patrick, you're probably the only one on the council at this time, but in 2022, and in fact, coming up this month in August, something very similar, except this involved a rodent, chewed through some of that very same fiber. Of course, not going across Maine, but through the backside of City Hall, where the fiber actually runs, aerial. During that time frame, it didn't. Luckily, it got full. It got all the fiber that it needed and moved on. But it did take down the communication to the PD. So it was actually longer than a week. Shane was there. I can't remember.
It was a long.
It went from the very end of July up until the second to third week of August. From just a squirrel taking it down. I wasn't working at the city at the time. I'd actually had left. I was with another group, but I did get a phone call and came in and found the issue, resolved it within a day. But during that 3-week time frame, and this is, and Mayor, you will understand the pain in this. During that time frame, there was well over 2,000 edits and configuration changes that the previous group made. An absolute nightmare. To try to back things out at that level is near impossible. So during that time frame, and I can tell you, we're still finding things today that has impacted. Even here in this building, the community center, everybody is aware of the fire department. The fire department was impacted. So at the time, we did get the PD back alive, but we're finding these things, and this happens to be one of those. The actual failover from if we have a loss of the primary communication back to City Hall, we would route out into the cloud and then back into the City Hall. And that just failed. And that's 100% due to the routes and not physical routes, these are interfaces that's in the switches and in the firewalls or security appliances. So with those being defective, I guess is lack of better words, that's where we're at today. We're working on those. I think I've identified several of those routes that can be improved. I've got an outside source that I'm working with as well. And it looks like we'll get this done fairly soon, and I don't want to give a timeline because testing has to be put in place as well. So that's where we're at today, but I think it was important to understand how we got to where we are today.
So I guess my question then is, so I did look at the topology.
Yeah.
And I saw the dark fiber runs between my brain is fogged right now. City Hall out to police department, City Hall to community center, City Hall to planning, in more of a spider configuration. What is the plan moving forward to move something like into an MPLS mesh network where we can not have everything solely on, hoping today that the rodent doesn't come back and decide to eat more fiber, or they roll down Waco Street and take it down. It may be slower, but it gives us the option to route around it.
So that was the original recommendation back in 2016. Exactly what you said. Using an MPLS configuration. The reason we didn't go down that route 100% was because of cost. The cost of those circuits wasn't conducive to the amount of money that we had at the time. I'm not saying that it's not something that we can do today. I think there's other avenues that we could take. I think that we can still utilize and leverage the dark fiber that we have now, and leverage the DayNet circuits that we have also that's in the ground, with the exception of the downtown area as discussed earlier. We can leverage some of that. just the infrastructure alone, of course. But I'm not saying MPLS is not the answer. I think it is an answer. I think it's one of the many answers that we can throw at it.
For the police department, how much dependency, let me just throw a scenario at you, right? Everything else in the city gets blown up. What is the dependency that the police department has on services in the city hall? And how much of that is just simply cloud-based services that they can access just utilizing the standard internet connection?
So there's actually one department primarily that has to have a direct connection one way or the other, via VPN or one other means aside from the direct connection via fiber. And that's the courtroom. The court is very much married to our encode system.
Okay.
Outside of that, there isn't. The PD can function standalone within reason.
So we could sort of change the design a little bit because the
Absolutely.
POP's coming in behind them, correct?
Say it
The
last.
POP is coming in behind them?
Oh, it's already there, yes.
Right, so it's coming in behind them. Do they have a direct connection to the POP?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
can we move them over to their own standalone internet service so that they're not dependent on getting internet routed out of,
So they already have that.
okay?
Okay, so the way that the routing is taking place, and this is where I alluded to earlier, that is part of the problem. And you understand OSPF and GBP, right? So that is where we're having an issue.
He may understand it, but I take
So-
so you talking.
I apologize. I don't know how else to explain it.
Can you break it down?
I'm sorry. So our primary route, one device talks to another device through this piece of glass. Okay, and as long as this primary piece of glass is there, everything is fantastic. If we break that glass, then obviously they can't talk to each other. So the way that we have it set up is through, and again, it's DayNet. DayNet is that direct feed that we have, direct from the hub. I mean, it is a straight shot. It doesn't go through anything. So if that piece of glass is broken, the way the configuration used to be prior to me leaving was that it would say, hey, this short path here is no longer there. I'm going to take the long way around. I know I can get there, but I'm going to take this long way around. And that's the VPN part of this cycle or this configuration.
So I guess, again, my question is that there's no dependency on resources for the police department in City Hall, then what is to stop us from breaking the dependency on internet service that would impact services within the police department and give them direct access out to?
Nothing. And keep in mind, I apologize for interrupting you. Yeah, keep in mind, when this was put together, DayNet did not exist.
Right.
So even a further story, and Mr. Hedrick can relate to this, there wasn't an IT until 2015. Hedrick was the guy, right? But we didn't have all the needs that we have today. And of course, the PD, as it sits today, wasn't there either. So we didn't have the need for the robust internet. We didn't have the need for the network infrastructure that we have today. When everything started to expand, and again, money is always the cornerstone of everything that we're trying to do in most cases. We had to leverage and utilize other services and other companies, Comcast specifically in this case. And so when it was designed in such a way that we had to use other services, other organizations, Comcast, again, primarily for our additional internet feeds. And City Hall was always at the time designed to be that central point of distribution of internet. But is that necessary today? Absolutely not. No, that's just a matter of reconfiguring the system to make it do what we want it to do and how we want it to do.
So
We have the ability, it's just a timing issue.
what, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm trying to keep up. So when you said twice that Hedrick was a guy, what do you mean when you say he was a guy? I'm trying to keep up.
And I didn't,
He was,
and I,
oh, you were IT at the time. Okay,
he
that,
was
that's, okay, that makes
primarily
sense.
for,
I'm like
I
trying to
mean,
figure
For the
technically,
police
we didn't have an
department.
IT, but
He
if
was
somebody
the-
had an
right.
issue and their computer didn't work, we went and asked Cedric to come out.
and I didn't, and please understand, I'm not putting that on John by any stretch.
I am.
So,
You can, I'm not.
so basically,
Blame you.
oh, never mind.
So, yeah, in the beginning, things were very straightforward and simple. But as we began to expand, some of the thought processes didn't grow with the expansion. Okay.
Well, I mean, think about it from my standpoint, right? We can grow through simplicity. And by what I mean by that is that most of my understanding, please correct me if I'm wrong, most of the resources that PD is consuming is all cloud-based. So it's not sitting in our,
That's not accurate.
it's not accurate.
That is not accurate.
So they have to have a connection over to City Hall to run all
No.
this stuff.
No, sir, that's not
Okay.
accurate either. Their CAD, their, I think Let's, what is it, OpenFox, there's a couple other things. Now that is internet-based, period. There's nothing that's hosted locally. But the CAD system is 100% physical and it's located within the PD.
Right, but my point is that there is no need for them to go to City Hall.
Agreed, yeah, I
So
agree
they
with you
can
earlier on that. That's
have
accurate.
direct connection with a failover ISP in the police department coming out of the POP. And then that would have alleviated the problems that we had before. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
but the configuration wasn't set to allow that.
Okay.
Again, the configuration was, at the time, it didn't exist.
Right.
So, sure, we can make changes however and whatever.
Let
we
me ask
need
you
to.
this, Tyler Technologies, it's not cloud-based, is it?
So,
But
it
the
is
servers
not,
are,
for
the
us, it
servers are
is
at City
not.
Hall, correct?
That is correct.
So if the PD and the internet cannot connect to the City Hall, they cannot work on Tyler Technologies.
Well, let me clarify. So, Tyler Technologies encompasses all of the
Yes.
systems that we have. That encompasses the system the court uses. That encompasses the finance system, as well as the police department. And these are all, with the exception of finance and the court, these are separate. So the PD has its own standalone version of Tyler Technologies located in the PD.
But it stores its stuff at the City
At the
Hall,
PD.
at the PD. Its
At
own
the
server,
PD.
it stores its own database at the PD.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Yeah, that goes back to my point, that if everything else in the world goes away, the police department can operate on its own. And that's what I was trying to
Well,
point
when I
out.
said, I don't see, when the City Hall went down because of the fiber optics, why does the PD lose what they have? I get because it wasn't rerouted. But if they're trying to run their computers inside their car or whatever, it's based on the internet, which in turn connects to the server, which in turn obviously connects to the City Hall to get their information out to the bill.
So, again, it's a configuration problem. Unfortunately, we're stuck on the City Hall as being the culprit. That's not it. It's the configuration, right? So, because the City Hall was deemed as the primary feed for internet, that's its first, the switches, the infrastructure, everything at PD says, hey, I need to go to this store to get my gas, right? But if that road is not available, I don't know what to do. That's what's happening today. So it's a configuration issue.
How do we fix the configuration issue?
It's doing exactly what I was mentioning before. We modify the routes that is currently in place to allow, if I need to, if that main feed is severed, then I still have a way to get in. Now, we can make Daynet as the absolute primary provider for the PD. That is not an issue. Again,
James,
that's a configuration issue.
So, let me ask you this. Is this something you can do?
Yes,
Okay. Do you know how long it would take you to make this change in the configuration?
I really didn't want to give a time.
I'm sorry. I mean, the thing is, I think
Yes.
this is where we're going, so we're gonna have to come up with a plan to say, okay, if we do X, Y, and Z, we can say it may take me a month, 2 months, or whatever, but meanwhile, we can do X, Y, and Z in order to keep this from happening.
I think 2 or 3 months is way, way too long. I think that honestly it could be within a matter of weeks.
Okay, that's what we look.
The reality is I can assure you, I'm not gonna do this solo. This is not something that I'm gonna undertake on my own. There's just too many things to do. I did mention that we do have an outside vendor that I will be leveraging their skill set as well. They have a plethora of network engineers. That's all that they do. So they will be leaned upon heavily to make sure that this happens.
So basically, you're working to fix the issue.
Yes.
It's not a task that you can handle within your job, duties or
Correct.
your role. So you have, other outside sources that you feel can, fix this issue within a short period of time, correct?
That is correct.
And, will you go out for like a bid, or you will do a single source, sole source? Or is it an organization or a business that we already do business with?
We already do business with. I already have a block of hours that we renew every year. So we can leverage that block of time specifically for this.
What is
do
the
we
name
have
of the
any-
company?
There's actually 2. CopyGen is one, that's our primary. Meriplex is our second. And of course, I've got Cisco as my, high-level tag side.
So let me ask, do we have any local businesses that can, that could potentially help with this issue or not? Do we? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, I'm IT, I'm tech dumb. I'm
Potentially.
gonna just be honest.
Potentially, but I wouldn't say yes or no. I already have an established relationship with the 2 companies that I just mentioned. They already know the system, they already know the routing. To bring somebody else in out of the blue, I think would take much longer.
Okay, so there's, and from what I'm just listening.
I'm not
to
saying
some-
it can't happen, I'm just saying it would take longer.
Okay, so just hearing some of the questions, that I've heard and trying to understand it, it sounds as if though we were kind of probably leading that we would need a backup internet provider. So am I misunderstanding?
A little bit. So Daynet is currently the backup internet provider today.
Okay,
What is PD's primary internet service coming in? Daynet?
They're the backup. The primary is through City Hall and it's AT&T.
so why
Okay, is AT&T in the POP as well? Can we direct feed them
no,
from the
they are
POP?
not. So we're getting so squirreled away in here.
So what is POP? I'm sorry, stop right there.
so
What is
that's-
POP? I've heard that used a couple of times.
It's where the internet connections come into the city.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah, it's our main fiber hub. That's
Okay.
where everything joins. So AT&T does not provide the service for Daynet, contrary to most beliefs. It's actually a company called Capcom. Okay. MB-Link is Daynet's current backup or second ISP. Now, AT&T, specifically AT&T, is the primary provider for City Hall.
So. I'm just trying to understand, in my mind, it would make sense to have Dayton PD on Daynet because it didn't go down, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, what are the trade-offs between AT&T and Daynet with for the PD and the city hall.
Why can't we make it the same as what we have?
So-
Exactly.
We can, we're talking the same thing. We're, forget about AT&T or the city
That's what we
hall.
wanna do.
Yeah.
And as do I, but reality says that I don't think we can. We have to have another provider for a.
What is the
service.
what is
But
the
we have
primary?
another provider that we're using as our redundancy for DayNet.
What is our primary provider in
Almost
the
3 times
city
the
hall?
cost as AT&T.
AT&T is our primary in City Hall, or is
Correct.
Capcom?
Negative. AT&T and City Hall.
Is it City Hall? So why are we not using Capcom?
Because we're using AT&T. We have the contract with AT&T, okay?
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out why we're
Capcom-
not using our own, eating our own food.
That we're already paying for.
I could ask the same question. We all should be eating this food, but we're not, right? So we had choices, and the choices were made before today.
Okay, so
So we're in this, we're currently in, like much of us, in contracts with companies.
So-
And this happens to be one of them.
okay, Shanice, thanks. So not to interrupt you, but are you guys all aware of all this internal mix up with like AT&T being the primary? Because I don't, this is my first time hearing this.
Well, I've mentioned it in seeing on our monthly financials at different points, seeing, things that reference AT&T or referenced, us paying money to Mont Belview's and was asked, why are we paying this? Why are we paying this? And so I knew there was that we had services with both, and I didn't understand why. I still don't understand
So
why.
you were not aware that it was the primary for the police department, city, okay.
So keep in mind, we're talking 2 different groups, okay? Understand, DayNet is over here. City services are over here, okay?
But we're paying on
Understand,
both sides.
I get it. DayNet was put in to serve, provide a service, an internet service specifically for the city of Dayton, not the city infrastructure of Dayton, but for the city of Dayton. So in the fiber world, that's why we have a different provider than what we have on the city side. That was negotiated by the group that put it in. That has nothing to do with IT as it stands, myself as I stand. That was something that was put in 3 years ago.
What is the
So this was before your time, right?
But I understand things that were already set in place, and my question is, why can't we improve it?
Thank
Oh,
you.
we can. We absolutely are
What
improving.
what are we looking at for the AT&T contract terms right now?
So, let me address Ms. Michael's question. So why haven't we improved what? I want to make sure I understand what your question is.
We're throwing money over here, we're throwing money over here. It makes sense to consolidate, get rid of AT&T. Why haven't we done it?
We can't,
Why?
because it's a different contract. It's a different circuit. That circuit lives in a different location. Its circuit is specifically to serve DayNet, not the city infrastructure. They're different. Now, if you're asking, can we go to Capcom or Cogent or MB Link or whoever, absolutely.
But it's gonna cost more. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, we'll have to have them
So-
come in and pull in a new
I'm
server.
gonna lean to you on this one. do you
So what is
understand?
what is the contract terms on the AT&T fiber? When is it re-up?
I think we have 2 years remaining.
And how long was the initial contract? 5?
I'd have to look, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? Something you just said, and I think it may help us all, because I'm just as lost. So, when you say we can go to someone else, I think I heard something about we have to bring their line in, did you say that?
I did. So, as far as the city hall is concerned, now, and we do have DayNet pulled into the city hall as our secondary failover for the city hall, okay? And of course, AT&T is our primary. If we wanted to replace AT&T, we can. We just have to reach out to whomever we choose to replace them with.
So in other words, we can make Daynet the primary and AT&T the
Absolutely.
secondary,
All day long.
Or someone else.
Or
or
someone else.
some other,
Not gonna save any
company.
money.
Pardon?
Not gonna save any money.
That's
Well, I'm
what-
not, I'm thinking about, I understand about the money part, but I'm thinking like, we don't want any more failures, right? So he said that Daynet did not go down, right?
That's correct.
So if that's our primary, in this instance that took place with the semi had, and I don't know, again, this is not my area. If Daynet was the primary, would we have had the same issue with
Yes.
this one? Okay,
Yes.
thank you for clarifying that. I'm trying to understand.
In this instance, yes.
Let me say it this way, years ago, AT&T was the elite phone and internet provider. They ran fiber optics because they had to have 911 system updated at the city hall, or basically in that same building or the next door. So they updated the fiber optics way before anybody else did. We come along and want to do Daynet. Daynet was on and off, back on again. We want someone that's reliable, been here for 100 years, or someone been on and off and on. So I'm sure some of the past administration looked at it, we need something a little more reliable, let's stay with AT&T, it's gonna cost a little bit. Daynet's a backup. If you switch the roles, it's not gonna save any money, but AT&T is still the premier deal. Yes, they run over a line. The issue I find with IT or different things is it didn't switch over when it should have. That is what we have to address. It's not one or the other being better or worse. It's you didn't switch over and it didn't do what it's supposed to do to keep us up from going down. That's what I look at.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to get to. That's why I was asking the questions the way I asked them, because I wanted to know exactly what you just said. It's not a matter of which one is the better company or which one is cheaper or lesser. It's why did, how can we eliminate this from happening again? And understanding, if it was one company or the other or whatever it is, that we can prevent this in the future. That's why I was asking the questions the way I did
Yeah,
to
that's
understand it.
a good explanation.
You get
Absolutely.
it right, John. I think the
Thank you,
biggest
John.
problem for the night and what we need to look for in the future is how to prevent this from happening again.
What, in the interest of that, right, we're specifically talking about the police department, public safety, all of the above. I'd like to see at least a plan, within the next 2 weeks, to mitigate this going forward with an execution by the end of the month. I mean, we should be able to manage our own infrastructure, manage our own switches, routers, and firewalls. That's what we get paid to do. And we should be able to, unless there is a technical limitation of the hardware device, we should be able to get that done. This should not be a heavy lift. This should be something that could have been done when everything was down. They should have been able to come back up within minutes. Yeah, I would like to see a plan within the next 2 weeks of mitigation.
Can you hear me, 3? I'm going on vacation.
Okay, 3 weeks, mitigation plan, and then, I'd like to have it implemented by the end of the month.
So implemented to me is lights are on, failover fails. So you want a plan in 3 weeks and us to execute that plan in a week by the end of the month. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
So 3 weeks to plan, 1 week to implement and execute.
Well, you said that you needed to pull in contractors to help plan.
I just want to clarify my timeline is
Right.
what you're saying.
Right, so
So
that's
that's the
giving you
end of
time
August.
to consult with your contractors,
Oh,
get it
that's it.
scheduled,
Mayor,
get all
can I
that.
make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Is that gonna cost us money if we expedite this process?
Well, let us
Yeah.
put the plan together and see what it's going to take in order to say when it will be implemented. Until you have a plan, you can't say how long it should take you to implement it until you have that plan in hand.
I'll back you up, I agree with
Thank
that, and I see where he's going with it.
Yeah.
He wants to put your feet on the fire, make you get it done, but I also see the fact that sometimes it it may not be possible to do it in a short time period. But I would expect a plan that said, if we did this and this and this, what's what we can do, but it might take us this much longer to get it done, because we don't wanna keep waiting. And it's still, 3 months from now, we're saying the same thing, or 6 months, when probably this should have been addressed a long time ago.
No denying. Absolutely.
So if we can do that, I think it'll work out best for all of us. Again, once we get that plan, you hold it to the fire to getting it done in the timeline based on what the plan details.
So, and I do have to say this, please understand that this was not a planned expense.
We understand.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it's understood.
Things happen.
Absolutely.
All right, anybody have any other questions?
Yes. Was it foreseeable?
Absolutely not. I wish I could, because I
No,
would have
but-
stopped the truck.
Sure, yeah, well,
Yeah, it would have been if we didn't have an underpass that would flood out.
that's different though, hang on.
No.
But the failover, like the primary was working, but when that wasn't available, it didn't switch over to the secondary. Was there any testing done to show what would happen if the primary was unavailable?
And whenever I came back, no.
Kinda like the same thing with the, DayNet, with the, not the IP address, but the subnet not being correct. I think there's some things in your department and maybe whoever helps you that has to be addressed, not later but sooner, because of these things happening like this. Just make the whole department like it's not organized or something.
So keep in mind that I am a department of 2.
And we wanna
And
keep
that-
you on the budget.
And that spread across to DayNet and the city side as well.
Alrighty, any follow-up questions?
To your last statement,
Yes, ma'am.
when you say you are Department of 2, if you had another body, would that help you out or give you, where it'll free you up to do more, I don't even know, what's it? Analytics or something that, whereas you're doing, I understand 2 people and you have to sometimes pull somebody from Public Works to help out in your department. So would an extra body
So,
you out?
so there's the overall top answer is absolutely. However, whenever we're looking at a very specialized person in this case, and it would be more of a network engineer type position. So yes, but that group is typically isolated and focused in a single area. Once these issues get resolved, to maintain or keep somebody on staff like that may not be the best bet. I could use bodies in the field more so than I can.
So even if you temporary outsource that
Absolutely.
particular outsourcing, because that's another option where they're not full-time direct hired, but they just there for a allotted amount of time.
Oh, absolutely. Project based, more
Yes.
specific?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, I've learned quite a bit tonight.
Now you know what a pop is.
I do.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, James.
Thank you.
I hereby, recess us to executive session 7:41.
later.
See you later. I'm just trying, so
Oh, Lord.
just really stressing me out.
Because they
I'm like, I can't, like, break it down to layman's terms, but
they don't accept.
That money your mama gave you for CBS.
Yeah. What?
Don't sound like it.
That's why I got it.
I guess.
Alright, it's now 8:39 and I'll recess our executive session and reconvene our normal session. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion to move the second. All in favor say aye.
All right.
All opposed? Adjourn.
Hey, that whole, I'm out of here.
You know, I was